So spring 2016 has ended, and I figure it's time for me to share my thoughts on the anime I decided to follow. I only followed 6 titles this time around, mostly because nothing really interested me, or I hadn't seen their first seasons. Anyway, without any further delay, let's take a look at the first title. Girl Meets Bear. Quite the name on this one. It's about a girl living in the country learning and attempting to grow accustomed to city life with the help of her friends and a bear that she lives with. The first episode seemed pretty promising, having some charming humor with likable character interactions. As the series progressed though, some characters became very obnoxious, the humor is pretty hit and miss, and there's moments where it gets creepily sexual, and it's just uncomfortable to watch. The show ultimately goes nowhere as well, having an ending that more or less contradicts what the whole show is about, and chooses to be pro-escapism instead of anti-escapism. I don't have much else to say about it. Nothing about it stuck out as especially funny, and the final message is just awful, so I'd say definitely skip this one. Next up is My Hero Academia, an anime that looks into a world of people with supernatural powers and focuses on a group of kids entering a superhero school to learn how to fight crime and save others. It's pretty easy to digest, as many fighting shonen are, having easily identifiable characters and plenty of action, but nothing about it sticks out as anything unique or interesting. The characters are pretty typical for a shonen, and the story isn't all that exciting either. On top of that, while it certainly has its moments, the animation is pretty disappointing for a Bones show. Not only is the movement pretty basic for the most part, but they even cut corners by having a lot of unnecessary flashbacks. It's not a terrible show by any means, but for everything I liked, there was something I didn't like, so I can only really recommend it as a time waster for fighting shonen fans. Moving on to the next title, we have Tanaka-kun is Always Listless, which is just as unachieving as the name suggests. It's a slice of life about a lazy guy in school, and that's about it. There's no real objective in the show. The characters, while enjoyable at times, are pretty stereotypical with not much growth, and even the animation and artwork is pretty lazy. A typical episode focuses on a simple situation, usually one you've seen in many anime before, and Tanaka just kinda lazes his way through it, with as little effort as possible, and there's never really any consequence for it. Heck, sometimes he's praised. Of course, while the show seems to embody everything that is laziness, I wouldn't say it glorifies it. It does bring up that a listless lifestyle isn't a good one, but I can't say it explored it in any way that gives the series any kind of depth. It just prevents it from promoting laziness. It certainly has its funny moments here or there though, particularly with the character of Miyano, but this is mostly a show for those who want to listen to some soothing music and relax. It doesn't pretend to be anything more than that, so it's harmless enough. It's the kind of show that you can tell whether you'll like it or not just by looking at the premise, so try it out if it seems like your kind of thing, but otherwise I'd say skip it. Next we have Flying Witch, a slice of life set in a world where magic exists, and follows a witch named Makoto, who moves in with her relatives in Aomori, as she tries to learn more about her magical abilities. The thing that stuck out to me about this show is that it treats its supernatural elements the same way it treats normal everyday elements, and it makes the world feel a lot more plausible. Whenever a supernatural moment is too weird, however, it doesn't come off as jarring so much as comedic in the way people react to it. There's not much of a story though, which can be boring for some. It focuses mostly on the delightful supernatural sides of the world and the interactions of the characters who, while not all that interesting, can still be enjoyable to watch. Its visuals are very detailed, with a nice light color palette that's very pleasant on the eyes, and although the character designs are pretty basic, the soundtrack is very soothing and whimsical, making the show a very cozy watch. While I would have preferred if there was more of a theme or story, I did enjoy my time with it, and I can definitely recommend it to fans of easygoing slice of life, so check it out if it seems up your alley.
And now for something completely different.
Space Patrol Luluko is a short anime series and a wacky comedy featuring all things Studio Trigger. It's about a normal girl named Luluko who is roped into joining the Space Patrol to investigate and capture criminals alongside a boy whom she falls in love with named Nova. Throughout the story, Studio Trigger pays homage to their other works, which can be seen as kinda self-indulgent, but I saw it more as them having fun with their own properties, since they never really glorify themselves. And the tone is kept comedic, so it's never really annoying. The show has some wonderfully creative imagery, and the characters are very likable for their energy and silliness, despite their simplicity. Of course, there's a lot of weird things occurring randomly, so if you're not into crazier titles, you may not like it, but its unpredictability makes it a pretty fun watch. It's nothing spectacular, but for what it is, it's a very solid show with a lot of heart, and if you're looking for something crazy and pleasant, it does the job well and doesn't last longer than it needs to, so I definitely recommend checking it out. The final show I'll be talking about is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. Taking place in the town of Morio, many Stan users have suddenly appeared and many people have gone missing, and it's up to the new JoJo, Josuke Higashikata, and his comrades to stop the Stan users and find the source of their power. At this time, the series hasn't finished yet, so I'll just give my thoughts on the show so far. While it's still action-packed, Part 4 focuses less on adventure and more on taking mundane situations and JoJifying them, making them more exciting and silly. To accompany this, the characters and their interactions are even better than previous parts, and it's gotten more creative with its battles, having stand abilities that may not be the most powerful, but it's the way they're used that make them more threatening, making it more like a battle of wits. The show still has that excellent use of sound that gives each attack so much impact, and the soundtrack itself is still a lot of fun. But sadly, the visuals are a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, the animation has definitely improved, and it has some funky scene transitions too, but on the other hand, sometimes it seems hastily drawn with very little detail. Anyway, by this point you don't need me to tell you if you should watch JoJo. It's campy, flamboyant, creative, manly, and has some charismatic characters, but doesn't have the best writing in the world. I love the series myself, and I'm looking forward to the rest of Part 4 and all parts after it, and it's definitely my favorite of the season, even if it's not finished yet. Well, that's all for this season. What are your thoughts on the anime of spring 2016? And let me know if you want a review of any of these titles, except JoJo since it's still ongoing. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.